Hello, Internet. My name is Ryan Ingram, and this is the Friday morning live stream Q&A. So thanks for joining, and I'm looking forward to answering everybody's questions. So if you wouldn't mind, any questions that you may or may not have, go ahead and post them in the chat, and we are good to go. In the meantime, I'm going to talk about PropStream for a little bit. I will post a link to it in the live chat and also the comments section of this video. And it has come in extraordinarily handy for our real estate investing business over the past couple of days. We've been able to find some really good deals, been able to do an extraordinary amount of research, and it has proved to be worth way more than the monthly payment. It is $97 per month. This that I am putting in the chat, that will get you a 7-day free trial, and it makes finding deals extraordinarily easy, especially the pre-foreclosures, which there's a lot of value and a lot of good deals to be found that are in the pre-foreclosure state. It allows you to send postcards to owners and even get their email addresses and phone numbers. So it makes calling somebody and offering to buy their house extraordinarily easy. And while we're also waiting for some more questions to roll in, I want to go ahead and thank everyone for all the support that this channel gets, because last live stream, we were just about to hit 6,000 subscribers, and now we are, let's see, let me pull up what we're currently at. 6,757 subscribers. So that's a lot of growth. We have grown by over 1,571 subscribers in the past 28 days. I think that's pretty wild. I mean, it took me, I don't know, 5 or 6 months to get the first 1,000 subscribers. So now the fact that we were able to do that in 1 month, it's kind of mind blowing to me. Let's go over to some questions that have been asked throughout the week. I'm having a very tough time navigating. Let's see. One question, Jawan Hugh asked, thanks, Ryan. I'm trying to buy a house in foreclosure, but I'm not understanding. Do I need the exact money when I'm bidding on it? No, you don't need the exact amount of money. You probably need a little bit more. When you win the bid, I mean, every municipality is different. Here where I am, I think you just have to put down like a $5,000 deposit whenever you first win the property. At that time, you are given like a receipt. You can take that to a title company, and then they will do a title search on the property to see if there are any liens or anything else that would prevent you from closing or taking a clear title to the property. Using cash to buy a foreclosure is probably the easiest, especially if it is at an auction. I have a video as well on how to finance a foreclosure, but generally what it really comes down to is, do you have access to the interior? Because if a bank is going to get involved, then they really need to be able to get into the interior and see what type of shape it's in. Because the last thing a bank wants is to lend you, $50,000 on a property, but it needs $80,000 worth of work. It's not a good fit for most banks. Let's see. Let's look for some other questions. This question is regarding the courthouse step process. Do you use a real estate attorney and or someone to do an additional lien search? Yes, a title company. So generally, after you win the bid, you will be afforded a week or 2 weeks to complete your title search. And for the most part, from my understanding, it's kind of the same across all municipalities, is if something bad comes up in the title, then that frees you from purchasing the property. I think that might be one of the only contingencies that you have if you win a bid at the courthouse. I should probably do a video on that because that's probably the most frequently asked question, is about financing and then doing additional search for like any liens. And that's the title company. I mean, I think a lot of people spend a bunch of time trying to figure out how to do a title search or see if there are any additional liens on the property. And really, it's kind of not your job. It really just comes down to the title company that you work with. And it's a really good idea to have a phenomenal title company that you know, love, and trust. In one of the foreclosure videos, I said, at the end of the day, it's probably trespassing if you don't have the proper written consent or written approval to be on the property. So someone said, if I end up with a trespassing ticket, no need to worry, your name won't come up. Oh, that's funny. Let's see. Good morning. Good morning to you. I don't know how to say that. Don't know. I would butcher it anyway. If you have any questions, feel free to throw them in the chat. Carlos Crockett says, thank you. Can you please list where to find pre-foreclosed home websites, etc.? Thanks for sharing. Absolutely, I can. That is PropStream. I think PropStream is hands down the best spot to find pre-foreclosed homes. That comment answered. All right. Any questions? Hello from Brooklyn. Hello to you. I'm doing pretty good. Doing pretty good. So if you have any real estate investing questions, feel free to throw them in here. That is what this is for. A good old live question and answer session. Right now, I'm just going through the comments that people have left over the past week, trying to figure out if there are any questions that I can answer before everybody on this chat starts asking questions. Not really. A lot of people saying thank you. Let's see here. Christina Estrada asked, What state are you in, and do you have an LLC? Yes, I do have a lot of LLCs between my attorney and CPA. Just keep in mind, let me go ahead and put this disclaimer up here. I am not an attorney. I'm not giving any sort of legal advice, but our attorney and CPA kind of collectively decided that we should not put any more than 10 properties into one LLC. So each time we get 10 properties, we start a new LLC. That just kind of keeps it all separated, tiny buckets rather than all of our properties in one big bucket. But truly, it comes down to personal preference. I know other investors, some have several hundreds of properties in one LLC, and others have each and every single property in an LLC, in its own LLC. So it really depends on what you are interested in doing. And I'm in Ohio, one of the Rust Belt states. Can you go over construction loans? Sure. Construction loans, generally, you get draws instead of like one lump sum. And as work is completed, you reach out to the bank. Generally, the contractor knows who to reach out to at the bank. And after a certain amount of work is done, I think the bank sends out someone to inspect, to verify that that same dollar amount worth of work has been completed. And then they will pay the construction folk so that they can continue working on building the property. So I think it's a pretty straightforward thing. I don't have too much experience with them. I did when I built a house down in North Carolina. When I lived there, it was a house for me to live in. We used a construction loan. So everything that I know about construction loans is from that experience. And I guess one of the lenders that we use on our properties when we are rehabbing properties up here, they finance 90% of the purchase price and 100% of the rehab. So after we are invoiced by our contractors, we pay the contractors, and then we send over the same invoice and receipt to the lender, and they reimburse us those fees. So that's about my experience. I think that's about all I can offer on them. On the insurance side, it would be called a builder's risk policy. That's what you would be after. Builder's risk, if it's new construction, and if it is already a building that you're just rehabbing, then a vacant property with a builder's risk endorsement is probably what you're after. What's the difference between construction loans and traditional mortgage loans? All of the work that needs to be done. So a construction loan, especially if it's new construction, then you purchase the land, but there's nothing of value on that land. So the bank's not going to give you the money. They're going to approve you up to a certain dollar amount for the build. And then they will hold on to that money. It's kind of going to be earmarked in their bank for you. And then as the contractors start building the property, they start releasing the funds at a specific amount of intervals so that they never owe or give the contractors any more money than work completed. A traditional loan is, the structure is already there. The property is already habitable. There's not really any work that needs to be done outside of just like cosmetic stuff. Maybe if you want to, redo the flooring, repaint the property. Other than that, there's no reason to kind of withhold funds. So on a traditional mortgage, at the time of closing, the bank or whoever you're using to finance the property goes ahead and gives the seller the entire amount of money. Absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate you being on here and asking the questions. So if you are just joining, this is a live Q&A. This is a affiliate link of mine for PropStream. If you want to copy and paste this, put it in your browser. I've put it up in the live chat. This PropStream has been pretty eye-opening for me. I used to spend hours trying to research like the pre-foreclosures and the foreclosures and trying to figure out how to make contact with the owner and try to negotiate a deal with them. But PropStream, they're a phenomenal, like data aggregator, and they put it into a very easy to use interface that you could truly just look at a map of your area or whatever area you want to invest in and click on properties and find, the mortgage data, the owner information. It even allows you to skip trace the owner. That means you can find their email address, their phone number, and get in touch with them. So it's a very, very useful. Yeah, absolutely. You got that right, man. I mean, I am very embarrassed, and I regret how hard I held out on even checking it out after people suggested that I do it. Man, it has been awesome. We have been able to run our own comps, so we actually have proof that our properties are worth what we say they are worth. So that feels really good. We've been using the comp report very regularly. I don't know what this means, WB Blue. How can you get a loan to upgrade after a purchase? Probably refinance. That would be from what if you want to elaborate a little bit more, I'm more than happy to answer that question. I'm just not so sure what you mean. And I will. Thanks, Lewis Porter Jr. I'm happy to see you on here this morning. So I'm looking at a property that's being sold in the middle of a rehab, and it's stripped to the studs with new electrical and plumbing already roughed in. And now I'm wondering the best financing option. Let me see if I can lower this camera. There we go. That way I can click on these big questions and my face not be covered up. Yeah, I think that's probably going to be rough to finance if you have regular access to the interior. Then you are going to be able to use a bank. If you're going to live there in the property, then an FHA 203K loan might be an option for you. Maybe. If you're not going to live there, I think hard money might be your best option. There's one company called Lima One. They might be helpful for you. I think they're a national company. I'm really not sure. That's the only company that I could think of that might be national off the top of my head. Because are you in New York? Is that right? I forget. I've used 5 different mortgage affordability calculators. They give 2 different affordability ranges. I don't know how much house I can afford. I don't know much about this, Stephanie Rivas. I think you should be careful. And I think if you are looking to buy a new home for you to live in, then I would highly recommend that you don't buy as much house as you could afford. I would recommend you buying the cheapest house that you're willing to live in and really roughneck it for a while. I mean, that's really how I got a head start in life. Is I bought my first house when I was 23. I rented it out, half of it, to one of my coworkers who was also one of my really good friends, and he paid half the mortgage. And we did that for a couple of years before I got married. He moved out when we got married. But I didn't know that that was called house hacking at the time that I was doing it. But at the end, I bought the house for 150. I was able to sell it for right around 200,000. So I was able to take that equity. And then when we moved up here to Ohio, that equity helped me buy rental properties. So when I moved up here, we bought a very small house. I was making decent money. I think at some of my best months, I made like $20,000 in a month, but we bought a like $60,000 or $70,000 house. And we did that. Our mortgage payment was like $400 per month. And, we could most certainly afford that. And it felt very, very good. I think that was the right thing to do because at the time I was very new into like this commission only job that I was working now. So I had the mental assurance that, worst case scenario, if I wasn't able to sell anything, then I would be able to get even a minimum wage job and still be able to keep that home because the monthly payment was just so low. And all the additional money that we brought in, we were able to invest. So my wife is a phenomenal woman. And she was really important for us that she be a stay-at-home mom. So that's the whole reason we moved up here to Ohio. And she was able to get our like monthly expenses all the way down to like $2,000 a month. So we just invested all of the money. And we decided that we were not going to get a decent house for us to live in, like a larger one. Because at the time, I think when we lived there, we had 3 kids and it was like a 700 square foot house. So it was very tight quarters. And, I think when my family came up to visit my parents for Thanksgiving one year, like we were all on the floor. I've mentioned that a few times in this live stream. I need to find that picture where we were eating turkey on the living room floor, just because we didn't have enough seats because it was such a small house. And I told my wife and I decided that we weren't going to buy like a larger house for us to live in until we had 25 rental properties. So I think those are the things that you need to think about, not how much house can I afford, how much house I can afford. That question in and of itself is not a good one to ask. It's not the right question. You should be asking, how can you save as much money as possible and still make good financial decisions? And I think that would really change your life. I think buying a really big house or as much house as you could afford is a really bad idea. If I just purchased a property and needs work done, what's the best way to get financing? Probably hard money. I know if you talk to some local credit unions, then you might be able to, get a traditional loan out of the gate. And it also really depends on how much work is needed. If it's just like paint and carpet, I mean, if it's already habitable, if the plumbing works, if it's heated and cooled, if it's just not exposed subfloor, then you could probably get a traditional loan on it right away. But you would probably have to pay for the repairs out of your own pocket. If you didn't want to pay for the repairs out of your own pocket, then hard money is probably what you need to do. Or if you are able to leverage additional things, like if you're able to take out like a line of credit on your personal home or any other assets that you may own, then you could probably so one strategy would be using a traditional loan to buy the property if it's habitable, then utilizing like a HELOC or a line of credit on another, like a secured line of credit on another asset, or if you even have like a credit card. Now that's very risky. And then if you make all the repairs onto the property that you took out the traditional loan for, and since it's a traditional loan, if you waited like 6 months or however long, and all the repairs would increase the value of the property by drastically more than the repairs that you finance, then in theory, you should be able to refinance about 6 months down the road and pull out all of the capital that you put in there in order to make the rehabs. And then you would be able to pay off your line of credit, your credit card, or wherever else you got the money from. Just spitballing some theory here. Hey man, I'm really happy to see you on this live stream. Thanks for watching all the videos. I owe you a lot of responses on the comments, and I'm most certainly going to do that. But thanks, man. You've said some really nice things. Awesome. Look at that. I've got everybody's usernames memorized. Here we go. When you buy a property, can you spend the equity to upgrade? I mean, probably, but I think there's a lot of things that need to be talked about, so you fully understand what all those words mean. You can't necessarily spend the equity unless you get like a bank to give you a line of credit on the property. And most banks, if it's a rental property, will only give you 75% loan to value. I know if you live in the property, then there are some credit unions here that will give you 100% loan to value because, you live in it. Most people don't want to lose their homes, so they're going to be pretty careful with that line of credit. And the bank is, willing to afford you 100% of your equity. So whatever the difference between the loan in the first position and the total equity of your house, if you live there, then I've seen some banks go all the way up to 100%. If it's a rental property, I've never seen anyone go more than 75% loan to value. So you probably are always going to have a decent amount of equity locked up in a deal once you buy it. And I think that's a good thing because, traditionally, if you have 25% equity in a property, you're pretty insulated from like a market crash. So if the housing market corrects by 25%, then you're not underwater yet because your loan balance is 75% loan to value. And then once the market corrects down 25%, your loan will technically be 100% loan to value, but you won't be upside down. And there's a very slim possibility that your loan be called during that time. So it's a pretty safe. Equity keeps you safe. And then if you have 40 to 60% equity, then you're super safe, because I'm not so sure that the market will ever correct more than 40%. I don't know why I would say something like that. Obviously, that I have no idea if that would ever be true or not. But hey, it sounded good in my head on this live stream where I'm super pressured to say stuff because I can't hear you all talk. How you choose areas to invest? Aren't you scared if you buy in a bad area you couldn't find good? No, I'm not scared of that. Perhaps I may have been at first. I mean, there are areas that I don't invest in because I don't like the area. I used to be in law enforcement, and say what you will about those guys and the way of doing things and all, but I mean, I just drive around certain areas, and if I get a whole bunch of bad gut feelings about the area, if I see some things that from my days in law enforcement I know are signs of no good, then I try to stay away from that area to begin with. So, I mean, that's what I would recommend everybody do, right? Like, just drive around the area, figure out what kind of feeling it gives you. If you wouldn't want to live there yourself, then maybe it's not, maybe it's too far out of your comfort zone. And then, I think probably the first 20 properties that we purchased when my wife and I had fewer kids than we do now, I would actually take my wife around to all the properties that I was interested in buying and figure out if she would be willing to live there. So actually, our first duplex, we bought about 3 to 4 homes down from a house that she lived in when she was in college. So she was already comfortable with the neighborhood because she used to live there. So she knew all of those things. And I think that's a good rule of thumb, especially when you get started. And there are always really, really good people, regardless of the economic situation that they may be in, or what kind of social economic, strata they may be part of. So, you could buy a $10,000 house in the worst part of town. And if you try hard enough, you will find a phenomenal person that you would love to have live in one of your properties, that would be willing to live in that property because they just don't have the same amount of money that you do, presumably because you're the one buying the property. So I think that's one thing that's very important to kind of separate, is just because it is a low income area, just because it has a high crime rate, does not mean that good, responsible people don't live there that would make phenomenal residents in rental properties. So it might not be the best living condition, but due to their circumstances, it might be the only thing that they could afford. Or it just might be home to them. I mean, I know a lot of people, and you see it a lot when you spend a bunch of time in the lower valued home areas, is some people make it in life, but that's their home. They've lived there their whole lives. They don't want to go anywhere else. They've got secure jobs. They could buy a property in the quote unquote good side of town, but they don't. That's their home. They're going to stay there. They love it. Everybody knows them. They're kind of the community staple, and they have no intentions of leaving. So it's very tough. It's very tough. I personally had to do a lot of work on myself internally from when I left law enforcement, because there's just naturally, when you're overexposed to the worst of all possible things of society on a daily basis, it's impossible to not get jaded to some level. So I did a bunch of work to get rid of that. So each time I see questions like this, then I know I've talked too much on this already, but I just want to make it very clear that this is an internal issue of the person asking the question. And I can relate. I ask those same things, but then after meeting so many people, talking to so many people, and recognizing my own jadedness, It's a me problem, not an area problem. What questions do you ask when looking for a good management company? I would say the first one is, if we don't like each other, what are the stipulations? How do we get out of this contract? If they have any sort of contract cancellation fee, I think that's a red flag. There's no sense in working with someone longer than necessary if either party doesn't like each other. So either if the property management company doesn't like you or you don't like the property management company, you two should be able to part ways without any issues or any payment whatsoever. So if they have any sort of not prepayment, that's a loan. If they have any sort of like contract cancellation penalty, I can't, for some reason, it's because it's 8 a.m. That's why I can't think of what this word is. But yeah, I wouldn't pay for anything. And then let's see. I would be interested if they have any sort of like minimum service call fee. I was the first property that I purchased, I was with a management company, and every single time the phone rang, anytime one of the residents called the management company, it seemed like it was a $45 minimum service call fee to me. So that really ate up a lot of my profits. I mean, I bought the duplex for $35,000. It was rented out for around $1,000 a month, and most months, just through an assortment of fees, I would say I made less than $300, and I didn't have like a mortgage on it or anything. And the management company would only disperse like $300 to me because the minimum service fees would stack up. I mean, they once charged me, $45 to deliver a letter to the house. The United States Postal Service really has that on lock. They could do that for a fraction of a percent of that price. So I would check out the minimum service fees. And then I would also want to know how they find their contractors. Do they have their own contractors in house? If they, subcontract the work, then do they charge overrides? And, I would really ask and be kind of upfront about, because they have like their quote unquote retainer or their monthly, fee of like 10%. I think that's like the industry standard. So like, what is that 10%? If it's truly just a retainer, and then if there's anything that happens beyond that, it's an additional charge to you, I would avoid that. And I would really be curious as to why. I don't know. So when I first started, I think we didn't take over property management until we had around 60 of our own properties. And I would say at this point, we probably spend. So if I were only to talk about the existing properties that we have, I would say we spend probably 4 to 8 hours per week on managing, the maintenance items and the, a variety of questions that someone might ask. So if you had less than that, I think it wouldn't make that much. I don't think it would take that much time. If you're out of state, I totally get it. I would probably do a property management company, and I would probably really focus on building a team of people that you really trust, that truly have your best interest, rather than trying to self-manage from out of state. I think that's a little bit dicey. I don't know of anybody that self-manages out of state that I think does a real bang-up job. And I think the people that do self-manage from out of state, end up kind of taking advantage of one person and find like a sweetheart contractor or something that's willing to go above and beyond for that investor, but they don't get appropriately paid for all of the things that they're doing. So I wouldn't necessarily advise doing that. Good morning, JJ. I hope your duplex is going very well. Thank you, Stephanie. Is depreciation based on purchase price or assessed value when doing tax returns? That is a CPA question. I'm happy I got my disclaimer rolling. I wouldn't even attempt to answer this question. I would leave this in the hands of a CPA. If you do not have a CPA, JJ, then I highly recommend that you get one. I need to have my CPA on this channel, do a little interview, because I'm pretty sure he can do taxes for everybody. And I really hope that he always stays as a CPA, because I don't really want to use anyone else. This guy is an investor as well. He's got 20 to 40 units here in Ohio as well. So he is very much so incentivized on knowing all of the ins and outs of taxes for the real estate investors. And I think the question that you're asking is a good one, but one that I do not do any research on because I super duper trust my CPA. Most of your deals are interest only, high interest. Would you suggest that approach for those with a small, less than 10 units? I think so. I mean, it's all about the numbers. So like the model that I do, if you watch some of these deals explained videos, if you're not familiar, we often borrow money from friends and family at 10 and 12%. We put first position mortgages on there so the money is secured by the property that we're purchasing. And we pay interest only. Now, these are generally short loans, like 2 to 3 loans, and there's a balloon payment. So it's due at the end of the 2 or 3 years, the full principal amount. And, it's interest only. So if we borrow 40 grand, we pay interest only. By the end of the 2 or 3 years, we still owe them 40 grand. We haven't paid down any principal. And the reason that we do that is we're able to get cash. We don't have to go through a bank. We don't have to answer all of their questions, give any blood samples. That was a joke. No bank asks for blood samples. It just feels that way when, they ask for proof of everything that ever happened in your bank account. So we're able to close very quickly in cash. So we're able to negotiate better deals. We're able to get pretty large discounts on properties. We try to find like distressed owners or motivated sellers that really just want to get out of their property so that we have a decent amount of equity in the property, or if it just needs work. So then we get them fixed up, rent it out, and we refinance with a traditional bank once we have like a package of those. So we just did our first large refinance where we refinanced 36 properties. It took us an hour and a half to sign all that paperwork. It was very fun. I think I signed my name somewhere around 200 times. Pretty cool stuff. But we were able to pay back all of our investors, and now we are at a 4.25% loan amortized over 20 years. I think I have to sneeze. I've never sneezed on a live stream. I'm really nervous. And now I think it went away. I was ready. I put my hand on the microphone to mute it. But sheer concentration forced that sneeze into a corner. So I think if you can make the numbers work, and if you have friends and family that are willing to, lend you the money, you're able to make the numbers work, especially if you have fewer than 10 units. I don't know if they're single family, if they're multifamily. If they're multifamily, I think it's probably a great idea because then you would be able to do the forced depreciation. You would be able to improve things. You'd be able to lower the expenses, increase the income, add value to it, make the property worth more. And then you would be able to refinance. And hopefully, the entire reason that we're doing this is because financially we're able to circumvent putting any of our own money into the deal. So with this refinance, as we are buying these properties, especially if you look at the deals explained, sometimes we buy properties for $25,000, but we borrow $40,000 against it. We do that knowing the property is actually worth like $65,000 or $70,000. So it might need a lot of work, but we were able to do that. And then when we refinance with the bank, it appraises for $65,000 or $70,000. We pay back the original investors $40,000, and we were able to buy a property without any of our own money. So that's the beauty of the way that I'm doing things. I hope that helps. Good morning, Joseph Wilson. I hope you were able to get something under contract and purchased. Give us an update, man. I know you were looking at something for a while, and I'm interested to see where you're at in life now. You're the best. Thanks, man. I think you're the best. This is fun. Totally understand. It's 5 a.m. in Cali. Dude, thanks for waking up this early. It always makes me really happy when West Coast people are willing to wake up extraordinarily early to watch these live streams and participate in them. And the only reason I really do this is because my kids. We've got 4 kids under 4, and I do my very best not to cut into family time. So, yeah. Morning from Arizona, Sal Martinez. I'm happy you're on here, man. I'm happy you're on here too, Brian. This is exciting. Thanks. What are the tax benefits of owning properties? Is it only the ability to write off the depreciation, or are there more tax benefits? So there are a lot of tax benefits that is more so just than the depreciation. I think the coolest part is, let's take this project Firehouse, for example. We bought that property for $10,000. It's a 5-bedroom, 2-bath house. We put about $35,000 worth of work into it, and it appraised for around $133,000. So if we were to sell that property, then we would have to do a 1031 exchange, which is like a deferred tax thing, or we would be taxed on the capital gains from the sale of that property. However, if we refinance that property and kept it as a rental, we would be able to do a cash out refinance. So we pull out my handy dandy calculator. 133,000 times 0.75. So that's a $99,750 loan minus the $10,000 purchase price minus the $35,000 that we put into it. So that leaves us with $54,750 that we're able to pull out of the property. Now, because this is a loan, we're able to take that $54,000 and it is a non-taxable event. So we're going to take that $54,000, we're going to put it in our bank account. We're going to go out and buy more properties with that $54,000, and that money is not taxed. So I know some people, they would live off that money. And that means that they do not have to pay taxes on their quote unquote income, because it isn't necessarily income so much as it is debt. So I hope that makes sense. But that is why my brother and I, that's one of the reasons that we do not flip any properties, because if the numbers work as a rental and you're able to pull out the money, I would rather be able to pull out less money and not be taxed than sell the property and have to pay capital gains or do this massive 1031 exchanges, because the last thing I want to do is have multiple decades or century longs worth of 1031 exchanges. Thank you, Esteban. I really, really appreciate it. I'm also really, really happy your last name's Peralta. You're still doing a lot of BRRRR setups. Do you buy investments that are rent ready when you don't have to do a lot of work? Yes. Yes, we do. But there's still a BRRRR. Even if we buy rent ready properties, we still do our very best to leverage our ability to purchase in cash, which again isn't our own cash. It's our friends and families or our private investors, whatever you want to call them, that's SEC friendly. We use their cash. We do our best to negotiate really good deals. And we also make sure that the properties have comps in the area that are worth at least 25% more than what we're paying for. So that would allow us to purchase a rent-ready property that has comps that support a higher value that in theory we could take to a bank and refinance and pull all of our own money back. So just because a property, so we just bought a property, and I think this is a really good example. So this is in the neighborhood that I live in, and it is this house that we just purchased. We just put it under contract for like $120,000, $122,500 to be exact. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. It's got like a 3-car garage. It's really cool. It's really large. It's pretty much rent ready. It's been on the market for a very long time. It's rent ready, but it is not up to your an average homeowner's standards, where this would be their first home, because there's just, I'm not going to say deferred maintenance, but it just doesn't present well. Like the soffit on the porch is falling down a little bit, like the ceiling where they just put the like soffit material. That's not a big deal for an investor, you know. The basement windows are pretty old. They're not the neat, pretty glass block stuff. Some of the light fixtures aren't there. Things like that. And the owners are tired. They are out-of-state owners, and they don't want to put any more money into the property. Now, the comps support that that property could be worth around 180 to 190,000. But this property is right across the street from a bar. So the front door of this house faces the back door in the patio area of a bar. And it's not like your highfalutin fancy bar. It's like a dive bar. And, you know, it's also very close to the main road. So there's always going to be tons of traffic and bar traffic. So all of those factors combined made this property sit on the market for a very long time. Now, just because it won't sell for 185 to 190,000 does not mean that it won't appraise for 185 to 190,000. So if we have comps that support that higher value, then the bank will lend on how much the property will appraise for. So I'm not saying, well, I am saying that there's just like this gray area that you can play around in where you can get very creative and make it to where you don't have any of your own money on any deal, even if it's turnkey. Because the thing that I've been learning a lot lately that I've said a couple times is just because it won't sell for a certain amount doesn't mean it won't appraise for a certain amount. And there's a lot of power in that gray area. When we pay capital gains on a short sale property, do we pay it to the realtor or towards end of the year tax? I'm preparing to start the foreclosure game. Nice, Sal. Hey, check out PropStream. Let me go all the way up to my first. Yeah, there we go. Check out PropStream, man. If you want to get into the foreclosure game, PropStream makes it super duper easy. It really does, though. Capital gains tax goes to the government. Do not let any realtor convince you to give them your capital gains tax money. They wouldn't be a realtor for very long if they ask you to do that. The board's coming for them. So you use the cash to leverage the price. Okay, now it makes more sense. I mean, we do. I mean, I don't, there are a few times where we see things that are very mispriced and we don't have to negotiate the price at all in order for us to have that built-in equity. Again, we concentrate very heavily in one area of town. So we are intimately familiar with the comps, what things are worth, should be worth, and all of that. And again, I mean, once you find a niche in real estate, I think the guys that do best are the ones that have their own area that they're interested in. And, you know, I kind of got lucky because the area that I am in historically has had kind of a bad reputation. I think it's a phenomenal area. And I think there are, you know, a million reasons why that area is about to appreciate very heavily. But historically, not many investors want to invest over there. So it just allows me to be a cash buyer where there might not be many cash buyers. Good morning. Do you know someone that removes tree roots in the Dayton area, looking for someone that can come down to Cincy? I don't think the guys that I use to remove actually, you know what? No, my tree guys leave the stumps. I don't think I have anybody that removes the tree roots. Yeah, I have a guy that comes and cuts down the trees. And then the contractor that I use, whom I adore, he will actually, as he's working on the property, he'll just like drill holes and like poison the stump so that it doesn't, so that the roots slowly die. But I mean, I think killing roots is, I think that takes a long time. Yes. $30, $60, 90-day delinquencies. PropStream is just like a giant data aggregator. So Man, come on, Lewis Porter Jr. You can't be playing drinking games at at 8 a.m. Well, I guess in some places it's 5 a.m. Awesome. Yeah. I'm so happy you're house hacking, man. Even in New York. See, house hacking is possible anywhere. Uh, I don't I don't know, but hey, you can get a 7-day free trial, Cosmic Winston, with this the link above. So you can go in and play around with it. It definitely shows all the pre-foreclosures. I wanted to do a video a while back about when I found a property from start to finish. I researched it on PropStream. I found it, on all of the websites that I normally look into, and I would say PropStream had about like 80% of the information necessary to make the deal. So you should still do your own research once you find something that catches your eye. Um, and now that I was looking at this property in late December, and it was going to like the sheriff's sale auction on the 8th of January, and it was very interesting. I should just do a video about it. That would make me explaining this a lot easier. PropStream suggested that there was like a $60,000 mortgage on the property, which is true. And then the sheriff's sale had it listed at their appraised value, which was like 22 or 25,000. It ultimately sold, I think, for like $40,000. But that's cool because that means that the bank didn't show up to the auction to bid it up to what they were owed. So it was just a really cool process to follow. But again, PropStream, just like in one click, I had 80% of the information necessary in order to like make a really good buying decision. So normally I would spend like an hour and a half to 2 hours, where this time, because PropStream had 80%, I was able to make a decision in, 15 minutes. Time saver, real time saver. Coming in a little bit late. What do you recommend when doing your taxes? Using a CPA. Using a CPA. So I would highly recommend that you have a bookkeeper that keeps up and appropriately labels all of your daily transactions. I would highly recommend that you get something from your CPA that allows you to put any of the properties that you own into the appropriate format, like separate the land versus the property. And then I would have your CPA work alongside with your bookkeeper, just so that your bookkeeper can actually maintain all of your records to the CPA's preference, and figure out how you want to divide up like your capital expenditures versus your repairs and maintenance. And then it should be pretty easy come the end of the year, because all throughout the year, your bookkeeper is keeping up with your daily transactions. So that would be phenomenal. I think that's the ideal scenario. And as far as that, I would just say that both a bookkeeper and a CPA, good ones that are willing to work with each other to figure out exactly how each other likes to do things, is hands down the most, well, your team, the team that you need to build around you to support your real estate investing business. They're an integral part, but so are the contractors and like realtors and insurance people. So it's all one big team to support you making boatloads of cash in the real estate investing world. But thanks for coming in, Freddie Cordova. Let's see. I have reached the end of the comment section. So come on, guys, ask a few more questions. I know you got it in you. And if you want to follow along with Lewis Porter Jr., just make sure it's not alcohol. Coffee, tea, water, juice, those things are all acceptable to drink of. Each time that I recommend that you use the link above, let me put it on the screen again, to get a 7-day free trial for PropStream. Truly, it's phenomenal software. I'll be done being silly about it, but I definitely think kind of sad that I held out for so long and resisted it. Can you buy foreclosed houses without cash? Yes, you can. Yes, you can. But you are likely going to have to learn how to raise money in order to do this. So if you want to, let me see if I can pull up this. I did a video on how to fund a foreclosure, and I will share it here. Man, it's got 5 dislikes. I don't know what you could possibly dislike about this video that I did. And yes, I am extraordinarily biased on the matter. So in that video, in a nutshell, is PropStream better than the MLS? Definitely. Yeah, the MLS is just the multiple listing service. That's just where realtors list their properties, but it doesn't aggregate any of like the county records or any of the financial documents around like mortgages or any of that. So the MLS just shows you like what is available in the area, but it doesn't aggregate uh, court records. But back to this question, because my squirrel brain just saw Lewis Porter Jr. using all caps. It distracted me. Hard money. If you do not have access to the interior of the home, then hard money, which is high interest, high fee money, or private money from your friends or family that are willing to help you start a new venture, are probably the best way to go. If you do have access to the interior of the home, and the interior of the home is habitable, meaning the water works, the electric works, it's heated and cooled, there's no major glaring safety hazards in the property, then you might be able to get a traditional loan right away. But the chances of you having access to the interior when it is in the pre-foreclosure or the actual foreclosure process where it's in the courtroom are very, very, very slim. So one of the reasons that foreclosure, there's so much opportunity in foreclosures is because there's just this natural barrier where you have to have the appropriate amount of resources to bid a property and close the deal without a bank. So if anybody could go around and just finance foreclosures with bank money, then you wouldn't see nearly the discount, because it would be no different than selling it retail on the market. Meeting with family in a few weeks to start discussing establishing a partnership for real estate investing. What topics, questions would you recommend for this first conversation? Partnership is scary. I don't know. Partnerships are exactly that. I mean, they are. My brother and I are partners in just about everything that we do, and it is there. It's only us, so we don't have any other siblings outside of each other. We love and respect each other a ton. We would never do anything at the detriment of the other. That's a good foundation. We were best friends before we became partners, and we most certainly established that our family relationship has infinite more value than our business relationship, right? So never could anything in our rental business happen that would make me resent him or vice versa. I think those are the types of conversations that you need to have on the forefront. And then I would really try to drive down and get very exact on why do you want to form a partnership? Is it solely a capital thing? If it's just a capital thing, then maybe you should try and take them on as an investor and promise them like a flat rate of return rather than giving them 50% of the equity. So when my brother and I first started, we formed a couple different partnerships with people because it just felt right, because our capital was limited. And if we partnered with somebody who brought just as much money to the table, in theory, it would allow us to buy more properties a lot quicker. But now that capital isn't an issue for us, then that has lost a great deal of its perceived value to us. Also, as all of these partnerships have played out, it's very difficult to get all parties on the same page. My brother and I spend several hours a day talking to each other, and we have all the same like life experiences, so we're very similar, and we often make the same decisions even before we consult with one another. So it's not hard for my brother and I to be on the same page about something. So I would just really, but now that we've partnered with other people that aren't our family and that we don't necessarily know that well, when issues do arise, it's very hard to round everybody up at one time on a phone call to discuss what we're going to do. And I just don't like that added list of complexity. So before actually giving up any equity in your future business, I would see if there's a win-win scenario outside of partnerships. And in the event that you do want to partner, I would talk about who is going to make all the decisions, and I would clearly lay out all the responsibilities of each of the individuals involved. That way, there's no gray area, and everybody has like a pretty little list of responsibilities that they are the only ones in the partnership that are responsible for. One of my favorite quotes is, "To be unclear is to be unkind." And especially if you're dealing with family where there's already like a long history of relationships and a history with one another, I would just do your very best to be as clear as possible about what you're getting into, why you're getting into it, what the best possible outcome is, and what direction the business ideally will go. So start with the end in mind and figure out, long term, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years from now, what do you want this business to look like? Is it one of those things where you're just using this family member for partnership for capital reasons now, but once you have, $100,000 each inside the business, you're going to go your separate ways? Things like that. All food for thought. There are 4 of us. That's a lot of people. Like, what are you trying to do? I mean, are you pulling together resources to buy like a single family home? Because a single family home across 4 people, that's splitting things really slim, especially if you're in, the Midwest. If you're going after like apartment buildings, I guess that might make a little bit more sense, but I don't know. I would really, 4 people, that's a lot of moving parts to make any given decision. So I would really spend a lot of time trying to figure out why and what everyone's role would be. And if you can't figure out what everyone's role would be amongst 4 people, or you see that there's a lot of overlap, then 4 people aren't necessary. And especially if you're just getting started, I mean, with one house, it's not that complex. And having 4 people try to run one house or one 4 family, that's a lot. That's a lot of moving parts. Currently heading towards my second rental. Should I have them in an LLC? They're both in different states. I don't think that's necessary. It's up to you, though. I think the biggest part about establishing an LLC is to start getting a track record with the banks. So at some point, you're going to want your LLC or your business to be able to qualify for things by itself, not dependent on your income. So starting an LLC and putting the properties in there and showing that these properties are profitable is probably more important than the limited liability that's afforded by the actual LLC. I don't know your personal finances. I don't know how much money you have. I don't know what you stand to lose. But I often think that people form LLCs for liability protection when the fact of the matter is, if you have an insurance policy that has 500,000 or $1 million liability limits, and your personal net worth is like 50,000, well, you're not really personally exposed that much. So I'm just saying, like, I like to think about it like, if you go through like the lower valued home neighborhoods, you see a bunch of no trespassing signs. What do you have in that house that you're protecting? So, and then you go to like the really nice neighborhoods and there's no trespassing signs. So, I think the natural tendency that we have to fight is when we have nothing, and we're holding on to it very tightly. To what end? It's taking more energy than you have to lose. I'm just getting started on my first rental, but finding it hard to get good deals when I analyze the figures. I'm in Houston. It looks like there's no good deal on MLS. Any advice? Yes. Never say those words again. There are always good deals in any market at all times. You might have to work harder. You might have to look in different places. And if the Houston market is hot, the MLS is probably going to be pretty dry. You're probably going to have to get creative. You might have to do postcards. You might have to go around door to door. You might have to do some driving for dollars. You might have to get a 7-day free trial using the link above on PropStream to find even more deals in Houston. It allows you to click on properties to skip trace and find the owner of that property's email address, phone number, current residential address. It's got all the things you need to contact an owner and figure out what a win-win would be to buy their property from them. And that property may be a really massive burden to them. So I do my very best to make sure that I never utter those words. There just aren't any good deals at the moment. I treat that as one of those statements that are more reflective of my current state of mind than reality. So if one thing isn't working, then you should probably try another. If the MLS isn't working for you, then you need to learn about more strategies to find deals and start trying to exploit those as much as you can. But I think if you were to look at other real estate investors in the Houston market, you will see that people are still buying properties. People are still getting good deals. People are still making money. So how do you be one of those people, not one of the people that are sitting on the sidelines talking about how there aren't any good deals anymore? I mean, my brother and I currently have 12 properties under contract here in Dayton, and I consider all of them to be very good deals. But I've had conversations with other Dayton investors that have recently said that there are no good deals to be had. So who is right? Who is right? I think that's a good question. I'm not picking on you. I'm just saying it with love from the heart. Hi, I love your videos. Very detail oriented and organized. Thank you. I love that you love my videos. This is exciting. Can you buy a house while being on a mortgage already? Yes. We just bought our first condo and would like to know around what time we could buy again. I think that's a great question. I think that you can buy whenever you have the money to do so. And you find a deal where the numbers make sense. So if you are going to a bank, getting a traditional loan, there are two main types of loans. There are ones that are backed by the federal government, and there are the ones that the bank holds in their personal portfolio. If we are talking about the mortgages that are backed by the federal government, those are like Fannie and Freddie loans. And there are a limit to how many of those you can have. You can only have 10 of those per person. So if you and I don't know who else, you just said we. If you and your significant other are both on the loan for your personal condo, then that counts as one for each of you. So you have 9 and your significant other have 9. So after you buy 18 properties using federally backed loans, then you can no longer buy any more homes that are federally backed. And the benefit to buying federally backed loans are that they are the longest term, they're amortized over 30 years, and they are generally the lowest interest rate, because in the event that you default, the government is guaranteeing to reimburse the bank for any money that they are out of. So that's why they're afforded such low interest rates. Now, if you were to do a loan that is held in the bank's personal portfolio, then you can have as many of those as you would like to, which is why my brother and I are able to have, over 80 properties and over 80 mortgages. So on those, they're generally shorter term. They might be 20 or 25-year amortization, and they are going to be higher of an interest rate. So we generally consider anything below 7% good. On average, you're going to be around 5 or 6% at the moment. So Currently, this 36 property refinance that we just did is at 4.25% amortized over 20 years. So it's pretty cool. I think I answered your question. Absolutely. And GA and its brother. Oh, he's a contractor. That's fun. Finance a CPA, aunt, real estate agent, and me, property project manager. That sounds fun, but that's a lot of moving parts because that means you, every time something happens with the property or like the project manager, you're going to have to talk to your mom to get approval to spend it. And you're going to have to make sure that your brother is giving you good prices the whole time. How are you going to shop around your brother? How are you going to prevent your brother from overcharging? You know, if he's a partner and he's the contractor, he's going to get paid unfairly unless he's agreeing to work for free. But then how's he going to eat? If you guys grow too fast and he's working for free, he's going to be getting very bitter and vindictive about all the work that he's doing versus the mom, the aunt, and you just kind of sitting behind a desk making decisions. I'm just saying things that I've seen other people get bitter about. A lot of times, people will partner. There's going to be one person that's willing to do all the work, but they don't have any money. And then there's going to be other people that they're going to try to find somebody to partner with that have all of the money. And it's a 50-50 equity play, but this person's putting up all the money and this person's putting up all the work. And I have not seen in many times where the person that's doing all of the work at some point doesn't grow to resent the person that's just spending the money. It's really tough to fairly compensate all parties involved. Thank you. I appreciate it. Is it best to go to lenders or conventional banks for your loans? I mean, that really depends on your strategy. I think the beautiful thing about real estate investing is there are, 3,008 different ways to make a boatload of money in real estate investing. So there's no right or wrong. I mean, like Lewis Porter Jr. pointed out earlier, I have a very unique system where I use friends and family and give them higher % interest rate. It makes me feel good from a soul perspective because I get to provide rates of return that are pretty high and pretty steady, but they're nothing compared to GameStop. But that might not work in Houston where you are, but it does work here for me. Yes, you did answer my question. Thanks so much. Getting started in real estate investing in New Jersey. See, real estate investing is impossible anywhere, even in extraordinarily high-priced, mob-run states. With New Jersey, the permit process scares me. New Jersey and New York both. Hi, Ryan. Speaking of contractors, that seems to be the hardest part about completing my first rehab, finding and keeping good contractors. Any general advice about wrangling them in? No, but once you find one, never let them go. I mean, we have a lot of very good contractors. We have 3 crews that we regularly use. They're all their own individual businesses. They have nothing to do with each other. We do our very best to keep them busy. So that's one of our main motivations, because if I were to stop acquiring properties now, I would eventually run out of work for these guys to do. And I don't want to lose them because they are so good. So contractors are always going to be very difficult to find. But once you find them, you just kind of need to take on the position of the fact that you need to do everything in your power to kind of become their main supply of work. It's a very hard point to get to. But now that we're there, it feels very good. And I often I have a few properties in our portfolio where they're vacant and they're going to be for the foreseeable future until our plate gets so thin that the contractor kind of runs out of work. And at that point, we're going to start working on those projects. But I'm doing my very best to make sure that for the next 6, 12 months, however long is reasonable, I can keep that guy busy. So it's very low holding costs for me for the properties that are vacant. We got them for, phenomenal deal. We got a duplex for like $1,000. It needs like 40 to 50 grand of work. That's a lot, but the holding cost on $1,000 for taxes, it's pretty low. I think our highest cost is just keeping the yard in good order while it's just sitting there vacant. No, you're awesome. Thank you so much. Lewis Porter Jr. Go to Home Depot at 5, 6 a.m. during the week. Good ones are normally there at that time. Are they, Lewis Porter Jr.? Are they? I know you're serious. And I've heard some people say that before, but yeah, I mean, I think contractors, again, I think there's tons of ways to find them, but once you find good ones, you definitely need to keep them around. So they're always going to be the hardest part, even if you find one. And we had a good one once, and he broke his back. So then we were in the same position that we were before. Very sad thing. All right. Anybody have any more questions? Questions. In the meantime, let's talk about PropStream. Let's give it a shot. Check out all the opportunity available to you. It's a pretty cool setup. Let's see. Long-term relationship. I think you could do that. I mean, I like to give a lot of contractors very small jobs at first, just to kind of see how they do. I also, so one of the contractors that normally does the plumbing, I've got him pretty backed up, but I wanted to keep the projects moving along and not be just waiting on him. So I try to find all of their strengths, and then I try to find other contractors to bring in so that Dan is his name, and he has the ability from start to finish to do everything. But he is phenomenal at finishing and making everything look really solid. So I recently got a recommendation, a referral from another investor for a plumber. So I gave him a plumbing job on a vacant property. And then I had Dan go check it out and make sure that he did a good job because he charged me a fair rate. So now I just wanted to make sure that his quality was extraordinary. So I asked Dan to, go over there and look at it with a very critical eye. And he said that he did pretty solid, probably one of the better plumbing jobs he's ever seen. So now that I have that information, I'm going to do my best to get this guy to do all of the re-plumbing. We do our best to replumb most of the homes that we have. If it is copper, then we do not. But if we see like a galvanized water main, we do our best to replace that pretty immediately. And if we see any internal galvanized plumbing, we do our best to just go ahead and replumb the entire house, whether it's necessary or not. Because we're trying to hold these bad boys for like 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years. So we would just like to go ahead and do everything right the first time for the next couple decades. It should be pretty solid. All right. Any other questions? Any other concerns? When buying a property from the courthouse steps, you use a real estate attorney to do additional lien searches in case there are past taxes or contractors trying to collect money. That's a good question. And all of this will be taken care of by the title company. So if you get a winning bid on a property, then you're going to do some sort of deposit. It's different with every municipality, but here it's like $5,000 if you win the bid. So you give them $5,000, they give you a receipt, and they give you this little thing that says that it's, for the whatever property, and here's the balance of that. You take that to the title company, and the title company does a title search. You are not a title company, and you probably shouldn't spend any of your time worrying about this. And in most municipalities, at the courthouse steps, if the property cannot be transferred, if the deed can't be transferred with a free and clear title, then that's one of the only reasons that you can back out of a property after you won it at a foreclosure. So I wouldn't worry about that. I would just have a phenomenal title company that you like working with. They will do that. And then they will likely also give you the ability to get title insurance on it. That way, if there's any chance that they missed anything and a contractor just comes out of nowhere claiming that he has a lien on that property, then your title insurance will take care of it because they missed it. So I get title insurance on all the properties that we purchase for that very reason. I don't want anyone to act like they have a claim against what I think is mine. So you don't need to do any research. B. Bailey, Florida. You just need to talk to a title company and they'll set you straight. Yeah, thank you, R6 Patel. I hope you have a phenomenal day as well. Thanks for being on the live chat. I sure do appreciate it. All righty, we are once again at the end of the questions, but I see that there's still about 12 people on here. So we've been doing this for like an hour and a half, which is sometimes our stopping point. So don't be shy if you have any questions. I'm down to talk about just about anything, especially if it's prop stream. Hey, I have a question for you guys. I am in the process of creating an app. We invest in Ohio. The app that we are in the process of creating is going to help you analyze deals. It's going to be super simple. We're not going to overcomplicate anything. It's going to be a very bare bones deal calculator and loan calculator. Are there any features that you all could think that would be very beneficial to have on there? I recommend all the books. I do not think that you can read enough books. The Wealthy Gardener is one of my favorite books. I think that book has been is probably the best book written in the past decade. And if you are new to the idea of being a better person, making more money, living a more intentional, fulfilling life, then I think that is hands down the best place to start, The Wealthy Gardener. I also think The Magic of Thinking Big, Think and Grow Rich, The Richest Man in Babylon, all phenomenal books. And if you are contemplating making a big life change, then The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks is a phenomenal book to read as well. I think all of those books should probably be mandatory for anyone trying to become the best version of themselves, which is one of those things that I am obsessed with. Jorge Armas, thank you, man. Hello from Ohio. Thanks, you too, man. You have a good weekend. There's a lot of Floridians here. Rich Dad, Poor Dad is amazing. It is. I really like what he says. What is the best list to pull on PropStream? I'm vending 0 vacant and an average of 4 to 6 foreclosures. The way that I utilize PropStream is I have a very specific area that I know that I want to invest in. So I do my very best to comb through all of the properties in that area and figure out if there are any opportunities. But I mean, you can really dial in the filters on PropStream and you can kind of go about like creating your own problems that you're trying to solve other people. So if you want to try and find, just tired landlords, then you can look specifically for people that have owned for non-owner occupied homes that have been owned for over 20 years. I think that would be a good place to start if you want to have the conversation of, hey, I see you've owned this property for a long time. If there's like deferred maintenance on the property, then you could see that they are probably getting tired of keeping up with that property. So you can, market or pull the list in a manner where you can look for that problem and already have like your script or conversation ready to talk to someone about helping them there. Yeah, Lewis Porter Jr. is in South Florida. Zoya. Zoya. I don't know. Yeah, I think you should probably just play around with PropStream a lot. We use it again. I've got one area. It's kind of like a square, probably a rectangle, with a few triangles poking out of it that I really like to invest in, and I just regularly look back for all the pre-foreclosures and all of that. But yeah, let me know about the app. I forgot to ask that question. Yeah, we're creating an app. I'm really excited about it. I've got like 3 apps that I regularly use, and I think they should be one app. So I have a friend that makes apps. So it should be pretty solid. I'm really excited about it. I think it would be provide a lot of value. Oh, my brother is in Jacksonville. Well, see, look, that's how bad I am. I don't know how to say that word either. I'll Google it later. Yeah, Jacksonville's a good market. Thanks. Do you have any ideas? Do you have any features that you want to see? Looking for some advice here. Should be cool. Should be cool. All right. Any questions? Any questions? I can answer questions. Driving for dollars info on your app would be great. Oh man. It's just going to be like a simple calculator, Tammy Bain. I think PropStream is not a driving for dollars app, but they make on their mobile app, they make it very easy to like take notes and bookmark properties while you're driving around. It also like records your route. It's pretty sweet. I would highly recommend it. And I'm not trying to compete with PropStream. It's just truly like how to analyze a property on the fly. So I'm thinking pretty much, just like the purchase price, interest rate, amortization period, your taxes, insurance, all that, just to get a good idea of your cash flow. Yes, capital expenditures and repairs, maintenance, and vacancy will be included on that, either as a percentage or as a fixed amount. So I think fixed amounts, once you have a decent portfolio, is probably better than any sort of percentage. So we're going to have the option to flip back and forth on those 3 items, as whether you want to calculate those as a fixed amount or as a percentage. And then we are also going to just have like a quick loan calculator that also is able to generate a amortization schedule for you, which should be pretty cool. And the ability to save those. So most of the apps that I know of off the top of my head that I've utilized don't allow you to save your calculations. So I often find myself doing the same calculation over and over again because I don't have the ability to save it. So when do you sleep with 4 children? That's a phenomenal question. Not often. I generally go to sleep around 8 or 8:30, so I can stay on the same page as them. Yeah, absolutely. Every Friday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, I will be here. Are there housing shortages in Ohio? Florida has major shortages and people are offering over listing. Do you think this is artificial? Another bubble, perhaps? That's a good question, B. Bailey from Florida. There is a housing shortage here in Ohio. I just heard yesterday, I did not verify this, I did not look into this at all. I just heard someone tell me this. And that is that there are currently like 900 and some odd properties on the MLS, where generally there are usually around 4 to 5,000 in this area. So I don't know the validity of that. I don't know CNBC fact checkers here on this live stream. So who knows what's real or what's not real. But I think this is artificial in the sense of, low interest rates. I do not think that this is a bubble. I think that with all of the additional money that has entered the economy, and that historically houses exist apart from the financial system, and the reason that they, the mere reason that they exist apart from the financial system and have value apart from the financial system is why they make such good security for financial instruments. So, I don't think quote unquote housing bubbles are real things so much as our financial infrastructure is extraordinarily unstable. That's my take on it. So I would say a house has intrinsic value apart from, again, the financial system. So, whether the house is worth 50,000 or 70,000 isn't reflective of the house so much as the amount of dollars that it takes to purchase the house. The dollar is what is the variable here, not the house. I say that. However, let's say like Amazon moves to a city and then so does, Tesla, then yes, now houses have way more value because of their proximity to these. Similarly, if those companies were to leave that town, then now there would be a housing surplus. So those are the types of things that would, quote unquote, affect the value of it. But as far as just what we're seeing a whole bunch of, money printing, cheap money, that's doing weird things to the price of homes and the availability of homes, because more people have money. More people are qualifying for lower interest rates because these banks have to lend out this money. The financial system is what's getting all loosey-goosey, not the housing bubble. If you could add contact info with an app, what do you mean by that? My contact info? Easy now. That would be a great plus. What if I'm under contract with a condo but saw a better deal? The inspection report has not been sent to the seller. Do I have a chance with the other better deal? Hope I make sense. Sure. So, contingencies in contracts are always there. So when you put your earnest money down, let's say you have like $1,000 earnest money, and your contingency is, contingent upon a favorable inspection or something like that. And if there is anything in that inspection report that you don't like, you can pull out of that deal and get your earnest money back. From my understanding, you can cancel any contract at any time, but you would sacrifice your earnest money. So I don't know. Again, I still got my disclaimer rolling that says I really have no idea what I'm talking about, but those are the things that I would say. Because all this money printer go. Brrr. Side jobs we could do for extra cash at the top of your head. DoorDash. A good friend of mine started January of 2020 with $300 in his pocket. He has now, he works a $15, $16 an hour job. He's not doing anything fancy. And then he started door dashing during his awake hours where he wasn't working his main job. And he now has purchased a 4-unit, and he has about 20 to 25 grand in his bank account. And that's just in a little bit over a year's time, just straight up hustling on the DoorDash. So I think that is a good idea. If you are not interested or have the time, freedom, flexibility, opportunity, patience to learn like a new higher paying skill in your off time, I think just hustling hard, doing a large amount of hours, sacrificing any social life or personal time, and just getting after it to drastically change your financial position, I think that's the way to go. I'm just cautious about investing now when demand is so high. I'd rather be buying when everyone else is selling. I'm getting impatient though. I mean, that's cute. That's like a romantic way of putting it, but I'm never a fan of sitting on the sidelines. I often think about like the man in the arena speech. Since I started real estate investing back in 2017, I remember listening to so many podcasts talking about, oh, the next crash is coming. The next crash is coming. Sure, man, go for it. I think people always say all this stuff just on the off chance they may be right. They could have, been the one to predict it or whatever. But if I listened to those people and waited, I'd still be waiting. I'd have 0 properties, not the 80 to 90 that we have now. So I'm not a fan of that. I mean, if you truly learn how to analyze properties appropriately, they exist apart from the financial system. So if you are, let's say interest rates go up, let's say taxes go up, all of these are expenses that you can pass on to whoever the occupant is, right? If it cash flows, then you're good. Whether the market goes up or down, you are still making money on a monthly basis. If you're still making money on a monthly basis, then you can still cover all of your payments. If you can still cover all of your payments, then there is a very slim chance that your notes ever be called due. So don't sit on the sidelines. If you are wanting to be reserved, conservative, by all means, don't do anything that's outside of your comfort level. I would just question your comfort level, and I would try to figure out all of the flaws inside of your thinking that have arrived at your to your like conservative perspective. So again, I mean, if you're waiting for this golden opportunity to invest, then you're going to wait for a very long time, and opportunity is going to fly right past you. There's always opportunity in every market, in every season. And I think everybody should take note and realize that when '08 happened, who got burned? Did the investors get burned, or did mostly homeowners get burned? Because I know, what is it, BlackRock? During the '08, they formed the largest single family portfolio ever, Invitation Homes. They've got like, I don't know, they bought thousands of properties in like Las Vegas, I think even Jacksonville, Atlanta, thousands of homes from these banks at one time. So sure, some investors went belly up, but by and large, you can learn from their mistakes, you can find the opportunities, and you can analyze deals in a manner that is going to be pretty well recession proof. Thank you. I believe it's called tracing, adding contact tracing. Oh, skip tracing. Gotcha. No, this is just like a calculator. I guess I should have been, it's my fault for not being so specific about what it is that I'm, this is a very good point. Hold on, let me finish my thought. I'm doing this squirrel thing. The app would save a lot of time. That is true, but PropStream does that. I'm not trying to compete with PropStream. Just a calculator. All I want to make is a calculator that, calculates all my deals for me. I agree. I think this is probably one of the most important parts about real estate investing, is making sure that you and your spouse are properly aligned. It took me a very long time. I had to go very slow. And again, I think I mentioned early on in this live stream, the first duplex that we purchased, my wife lived like 4 doors down when she was in college. So she was already familiar with the neighborhood. And even then, the night before we were supposed to close on that duplex, she very politely, very kindly asked me not to buy it. So the reason she asked me not to buy it is because we moved from North Carolina to Ohio, and this was before I cashed out all of my retirement accounts. So we had money in our savings, but this purchase would take us below her like comfortable threshold by about $10,000. So instead of backing out, what we did was we borrowed. Fortunately, I mean, the stars aligned on this deal, but the realtor allowed us to borrow $10,000 from him. So that kind of saved the deal. And then I also used to take her around to all of the properties before we purchased them to make sure that she felt comfortable in the neighborhood, that she didn't think poorly of the house, and that she signed off on everything. Biblically speaking, you're not supposed to be like unyoked with whoever you're with, and I think that goes the same for real estate investing. I would always say that spouses should be on the same page with each other. And if my wife were not comfortable with any of the things that I am doing, I would immediately, without hesitation, calm way down to her level of comfort and security. But fortunately, because over the past 2-3 years, things have been going very well. I've gained a lot of her trust. She trusts me. She's good. So I do check in often. I do make sure that, she's comfortable. And if she weren't, I would fix it or stop doing whatever was making her uncomfortable. Well, thanks, Tammy. I appreciate it. I'm very passionate about my wife. I love her a ton. She's a perfect woman. She's my perfect woman. I get that you can't say that because, there's somebody out there for everybody. So they say. Oh, I'm silly. I'm very silly. All right, rolling up on 2 hours. Got about 15 minutes of questions left. I don't have to be anywhere until 11:15. I love the equally yoked. Well, thanks. I did not come up with that. The Bible did. Yeah. I mean, my wife has children. At first, I tried to get her to like read all of the same books that I was, just so that we could be on the same page, because my wife is an extraordinarily smart woman. She was an assistant principal when we met. I look up to her a ton. I wanted her to know all of the things that I did, but all these kids that we're having, they take a lot of her time and energy and brain power. So she's not actually able to like read all of this stuff. So again, it's been a long road, but we are on the same page, and it has taken a lot of communication and a lot of like easing into things slowly, like building trust. And then I think so like the first property, 2 properties that we purchased, maybe even 3 or 4, it was just me and her. And then my brother and I became partners whenever we just started talking about a lot of this real estate stuff together. He got into real estate investing down in Jacksonville. We just compared numbers and slowly convinced him to join forces up here with me in Ohio. So whenever he came on board, that took some pressure off my wife, but also gave her like an added level of security, because my brother, in fact, is like 3,000 times smarter than I am. So true that about. Yeah, absolutely. You should have her on with you sometimes. Yeah. We have 4 kids under 4 at the moment, Tammy Bain, and one of them is like 5 or 6 weeks old. So it'll be a while. It'll be a while before she's willing to give that one over to any sort of babysitter. But we're working on it, and I think that would be fun. I shortcut the shows to help him see the vision. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. I respect that. Shortcuts are what it's all about. Good shortcuts. Not like contractor shortcuts. I don't like seeing contractor shortcuts. Those are bad shortcuts. Let's see, what else? Anyone have anything fun? I'm impressed that 12 people are still on here. This is a good live stream. I'm very happy with it. I think I should probably also start marketing these, actually giving people heads up that I will be going live on these live streams. What is your method for investigating a long distance market? Do you travel there or just Google search? I have never done this. I've only bought local. I moved to Dayton, Ohio. And when I moved to Dayton, Ohio, I realized that the real estate market was very reminiscent to Durham, North Carolina, when Durham was before Durham really took off. So because Dayton doesn't have any shortage of deals yet, I do not feel like we have exhausted all of the good things that we could possibly exhaust from Dayton. When I feel that way, yes, we will move to different markets. And the way that I will do that is I will drive there, most certainly. I will not blindly buy a house in a neighborhood that I've never stepped foot in. I know that some people have done that, and I know some guys that have had a great amount of success with that, but that's way outside of my comfort zone. I want to know the vision of that community. I kind of want to get like a pulse on what's going on there, what they want, like what the community wants, what the community sees in its future. I want to talk to other investors in that community. I want to figure out, politically, from like a city council perspective, where they want the city to go, things like that. And of course, the numbers matter. I have a for the amount of money spent, I would want to make sure that, we make a certain amount of return. Here in Dayton, Ohio, historically, we've been able to get pretty close to about 2%. So we actually have a property under contract right now for $35,000, and it's going to rent out for around $800. So that's a phenomenal deal. And those are the types of returns that I love making. And those are the types of returns that most of the properties in our portfolio can offer. So I would want to be pretty close to that in the new market, and that is pretty common in the Rust Belt Midwest states. Your Indiana, your West Virginias, parts of Illinois, Michigan. Michigan has a lot of these types of properties. Pretty much any place that was negatively impacted by the automotive industry. So that's how I would do it. And then I think the other important thing that I would do is I would try to achieve like the law of averages or the law of large numbers as quickly as possible. So I would not, I know it works for some people, but I personally would not want to own less than 10 properties in any market. So if I'm going to go into a market, I'm going to get 10 properties as quickly as possible. That way, I have the opportunity to potentially keep a contractor busy, so I can gain some loyalty there. Numerically speaking, the portfolio would be able to kind of sustain itself at that point. So if one property needs a roof, the cash flow from all of them should be able to replace that roof without me dipping into my own pockets or reserves. So those are the types of things that I do my best to think about. If I would go into another market, that's where I would start. I don't know what you mean, Lewis Porter Jr. Yes, you can watch this whenever you'd like. It'll be recorded. Thank you. I appreciate it. Not really. I'm kind of all in on real estate investing. For me, one of the most important things is positive control. So I don't like to invest in things that I don't have the ability to step in and intervene on when things start going south. So that takes stocks out of the picture. I don't like just throwing my money and hoping somebody else will do the right thing with it. And if they don't do the right thing with it, there is no recourse that I have. If they lose all of my money, there is nobody to be held accountable for losing all of my money. So I do real estate investing. I have a few businesses. That's some form of investing. That takes a lot of my time, energy, and effort. And they're also bankable. And then I also lend money to other people on occasion, like for first position mortgages. So all of those things combined is how I invest. I don't do any sort of speculative things and control. influence. All of that is very important to me. Oh, yes. Yes, I should. Yeah, you get on me about that a good bit. Sometimes I go live with only like 5 minutes of heads up. You don't like that. I'll do that. That would be exciting. I'm really excited about hitting over the 2 hour mark. Pretty solid. Well, anyone have anything to get us over this next 5 minute hump? Then I should probably get going. I think my 11:15 is about 30 to 45 minutes away from my office. Anybody have anything? I'm also not above sitting in 5 minutes of silence just to get over the 2 hour mark. Ornery. I think ornery is the word for what I am. Perhaps stubborn as well. I don't think this, let's see here. I've got one. I close on Monday on one. 2 apartments upstairs, 1 big commercial spot downstairs. No idea what to do with the commercial spot yet. No, neither of us are realtors. However, my brother is a mortgage loan officer. So if you start investing in Jacksonville or anywhere in Florida, he is only licensed to do mortgages down in Florida, but he can most certainly help you out. He would like that. How do people go from residential to mixed units? I think just by buying a mixed unit place. I mean, I think for the most part, numbers should be the same. My mentor, one of my mentors in real estate, suggested to me that commercial unit that I just purchased or the mixed use building, he says that its highest and best use is likely to be residential. So he wants me to turn the downstairs unit into either one really big, really cool unit or 2 and divide it up into a 4 unit. So I don't think he's wrong. All the other commercial spots in that area have been turned into residential in a similar fashion. He made some good points to me about, just when it comes to commercial stuff, the city often has a little bit more red tape around things. So I kind of need to figure out, once I close on it, I'm going to talk to the city, figure out what I need to do if we were to turn it into a commercial spot, see how heavily they need to be involved. If it's very little, I might try and put some sort of commercial occupant in there. I had one person approach me about putting a Mexican restaurant in there. I think that's probably a good idea, but we'll see. Speaking of my brother, he just tried to call me. He knows I'm doing this live stream. Silly rascal. All right, let's see what else. Barbershop or a coffee shop? Yeah, that would also be good. If I really don't know as much as I should know about these things, so I have a lot of research to do. But the good news is I took that leap, right? I took that leap and closed on the property, even though I have no idea what I'm doing. And the reason I was able to do that mentally was, we bought this property for $75,000, and the units above it are rented at one is rented at $400 a month, and the other is rented at like $550 a month. So it's pretty cool. They're in good shape. The apartments really don't need much work. It's a good looking building, and numerically, we're already above a 1% return just from the apartments. And then once we get the 1,700 square feet of commercial space rented, presumably we can get it to a 2% property. No, he's a mortgage guy. So he can, if you are looking to buy properties in Florida, he can probably connect you to some realtors, but he just closes loans. So He'll help you find financing and funding for what you're trying to do. But he doesn't sell properties. It used to be a bar. It was kind of a problematic bar. Like somebody got murdered there in January of 18, I think it was. So it's been like kind of it's been a bar is not the best option for a community. And talking to the owner of it, he made a lot of money off that bar, but not quite the type of impact I'm looking to have. Hey, Luke and Jenny, it's been a while. I'm happy you made it on here today. Yes, two retail locations. It used to be two, so there's actually already, the downstairs has 2 meters, both electrical and gas, so it could be divided up. And at one point, it was divided up. It was, a bar on one side and like office space on another. And then once his bar got, to doing pretty well, then it switched. He just knocked down the walls and turned that office space into more seating, pool type area, stuff like that. Alrighty, well, we are once again at the end of the comment section, and we have been going on for 2 hours now. So I am going to do one of those, what's it called, skedaddle or skadoodle, one of the two. Yeah, send me an email. I'll send you my email address. Send me an email and I'll connect you to ryan@seekwisdom.us. If any of you all need anything, feel free to send me an email at that email address. Happy to respond, happy to help. Alrighty. I look forward to seeing you all next week at Friday at 8 a.m. Look at that, Lewis Porter Jr. This is the marketing. This is the marketing. All right. I'll talk to you all soon. Thanks.